Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Who would have thought on this particular day that Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, and Pete Carroll would not be coaching anymore? All at the same time.
Same time, too. Yeah, exactly.
Talk about timing.
Hey, I thought yesterday there was a chance the Belichick announcement could come down, then you see Pete Carroll out, and then you see Nick Saban retires. There's no way. This is waiting a day, at least, yeah. and sure enough, it did.
So here's the... let's just quickly go through it. We know that Nick Saban is been the greatest head coach of this era. I know everybody wants the greatest of all time and the whole thing. Look, different eras bring with it different responsibilities. Right. Would he have as many national championships during the Pole era? I don't know. But Bear Bryant did. Right? Would he have 5 undefeated seasons in 4 different decades? No, but Joe Paterno did. Right? Which then brings with it in this particular era, like take Washington. Washington was 14-0 the other night. Yep. Well, they lost. So everybody has a loss except the team that won, yep. Michigan. So getting 5 undefeated teams in 4 different decades, incredible feat, but could it happen today? Not in the current playoff system. I mean, there's going to be 11 teams that are going to lose next year as their last game of the season. Okay? There are going to be 11 next year. The last game of the season, there will be a loss. All right? And there will be one where the last game of the season is a win. That's just the playoff era. So each era has brought with it different challenges. Like Bear Bryant was the standard of the 50s, 60s into the 70s. Joe Paterno was the standard into the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. The BCS era, Bobby Bowden certainly was an important part of that. And then in the playoff era, it's been Nick Saban. Okay, they're all different eras. Just like Walter Camp was the greatest coach of his era back in the early 1890s, 1900s. Like Amos Alonzo Stagg was the great coach at the University of Chicago. Frank Leahy at Notre Dame. Ara Parsegan. There's just a lot of different, right? So it can't always be, he's one guy, he's the greatest of all time. He's the greatest of this era. Okay? It wasn't like he wasn't in the Big Ten at Michigan State, where for the most part he spun his wheels. Okay, that happens. Right, it's a difficult job. It's not the greatest job. A lot of competition. You're trying to beat Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, and Michigan. Not easy. I mean, did he have his moments against each? Yeah, but did they have their moments against him? Yep. Right. The LSU thing, he had kind of carte blanche to do what he wanted. He won, and then he went to the Dolphins because he had the itch to try the pros, and actually did better in the pros than he gets credit for. Yeah,
the way he left is what people remember. I don't think there's any doubt.
Right. Then he goes to Alabama, and he takes over a program that had been on probation and did an incredible job. Right? And that's that's where they are. And he did a phenomenal job there at Alabama. Phenomenal job. He's the best coach of the playoff era. All right. Again, you have to sit there. He's the GOAT. All right. Well, he's one of them. Okay. Right. There's a long list of others that in their era were among the best ever. Bear Bryant was the best ever of his era. Joe Paterno was the best of his era. Bobby Bowden of his era. Right. Nick Saban of his era. Woody Hayes of his era. Yeah. I mean, Bo Schembechler was really good, but no offense, he's not quite in the same category because he never played for a national championship.
No.
Ever. I mean, in fact, in bowl games, he won 6 of them. I mean, that's like in a lot of ways, Harbaugh picked up where Bo left off, losing bowl games. He finally won 2 this year. But So it's kind of hard to put Bo in there because these other guys won them or played for them, and that's and that's a big difference. But Woody won 4, John McKay, USC.
Yep, I think it's Tom Osborne in there.
Tom Osborne won 3 at Nebraska, or I'll say 2.5. But he still won.
Yeah. We'll give him the 3 since '93. He probably should have won that one. So
yeah, but there's a whole so you just can't. It's easy. He's the GOAT. I mean, everybody in this era, somebody's a GOAT. Yeah, I got it. Fine.
Yeah, it's a term I think used way
it's
too much.
And it's just
it's one of the most overused in terms of.
People who use that don't really have a strong sense of history. No. They just want to do it because they want to feel like they were watching the best. And look, he is among the best ever.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that. But to say he's the best, or he's the best of this era.
Sure.
Okay? You can't really sit there and say, would he have been the best of Bryant's era? Would he have been the best of Joe's era? I mean, it's like, I don't know, because those guys in their era excelled and never got a chance to excel at this one, just like he didn't get a chance to excel at their era. So you go by eras as to who did what when you're doing this. Then there's Belichick. It's interesting. I talked with Peter King yesterday, and this is right after Pete Carroll was let go. He's going to move to the front office. He's all excited and fired up and the whole thing. No, he's fired up. He's still on the payroll.
I was about to say that. He's fired up. He gets a check. Yeah, exactly.
So, but Carroll's 72. And I said to Peter, I said, geez, Pete. I said, he was in his late 50s, mid to late 50s when he did the Rose Bowl.
Right.
He goes, oh, geez. I said, yeah, think about that. I said, that was 2008.
Yeah.
And then there's Belichick, who's also 72. So what, Belichick, Saban, and Carroll all 72 years old. Saban's the one that walked away. Carroll's been reassigned, and Belichick's not coming back. Now, do I blame, and look, I'm not going to sit here. Look, have I ever interviewed Nick Saban? Yes. I also interviewed him at a time when he wasn't as outgoing as he is now. He's more outgoing now, and I think people will tell you his wife, Terry, is the one who said, look, you've got this great personality. Show more of it. Well, back then, I mean, I wish you'd said that to him when I talked to him because he was such a flat line to talk to. Right? It's just the way, everybody, it was his way of dealing with the media. It's okay. I got it. But what coach at the age of 72 needs to deal with everything you're dealing with today?
Especially in college football.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What coach?
Yeah.
I mean, ask yourself why the coaching profession no longer has in it Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Jay Wright, and Nick Saban. Why aren't they coaching anymore? Right? And it's more than just being 72 years old.
Right. I agree.
Right? It's more than just age coming into play because all of them enjoyed and loved their jobs for a long time. And Jay's in his early 60s. All right? Because I think the current system is just so spiraling in terms of the lack of control over it.
That's exactly
that
what
everybody's
it is.
Looking around going, okay, how do I got to handle this? Okay. I always loved people come up with a new expression like, hey, the new expression is to act like you know what you're talking about. He says, well, it depends on the bag we give them. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, just say it out loud. I mean, for goodness sakes, use plain English. Okay, it depends on how much money. All right?
Yes.
Okay. It depends on the bag.
I could not say it better myself.
You sit there and
absolutely.
I hate when I see that. I go, I'm trying to be the cool guy. It depends on the bag. Hey, can you talk plain English? How about money? Okay?
Yes.
It's about cash. Yes. Next. Okay.
1,000% agree.
I feel like I'll see something, I'll go, great, Bozo the Clown, right? You immediately fall off my radar as somebody that I even want to talk to because great, okay, you're going to be one of those guys.
Very annoying.
Like, come on, just talk in plain English. It's actually a very simple language to understand. So they don't want to deal with it.
No.
Now, do they say they want to deal with it? No, they don't say that. They don't say that because in part they don't want to hurt their current school.
Right. They don't want to hurt the guys they brought in either.
Mike doesn't want to hurt Duke. Roy Williams does not want to hurt North Carolina. Jay doesn't want to. In fact, Jay's doing fundraising at Vanderbilt. At Villanova. He's doing fundraising at Villanova. Now, in general, not just athletic department, but general as well. And Nick Saban doesn't want to hurt Alabama. So they're not going to say, the current system is well. They may make comments about how to improve it. The question is whether anybody sits down and listens to the voices of experience. And that is a big concern today. That is a big concern.
Yeah, and it's
who has the ability to be smart enough and check their arrogance in at the door to listen to people that have been around the block.
Yeah.
To want to sit there and tap the mind of a Bill Belichick. Now, again, personnel-wise, I can have a lot of debates about what he did personnel-wise with the Patriots. Right? A lot of debates.
Yeah. Especially recently. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
But even in other years, why couldn't they get somebody besides Randy Moss? Mm-hmm. That was a Hall of Fame type.
Especially when you have probably, and you argue easily the greatest quarterback of this era, taking pay cuts to better your team.
Right.
Which he did consistently.
Yeah.
And I think, it's the old cliche, money's the root of all evil, and I think that is really what you see now, especially in college sports. I think there's no question, because when that money is coming in, when that money is at a high level that it is, makes it, I don't want to say it makes it difficult, it makes it be more where you are unwilling to listen to those who have been around the block, those who have been where where they came from and basically know what is successful. You just think money is going to lead to success, and it often doesn't. Right. And I think that's the one thing that I think you look back at that is ultimately, I think you could say, hurting college football, because I think it is. And I think that's something that where you look at it right now, if you don't find that stable spot, if you don't find something that can curb what's going on in the sense that, okay, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to do it. I'd say 5 to 6 years from now, even, I'm not even going 10 to 20, I'm saying 5 to 6 years, you're in trouble. Because that right now, this just isn't a stable system. And you're looking around saying, what are the regulations? What do we do? And there are none. And nobody's willing to step up and say, here's the regulations, because of the amount of money coming in, people are afraid to stop that.
Right. Well, the Patriots are going to go younger.
Yeah,
They could go with Mike Vrabel.
I think so too.
And how much the Crafts have in terms of power over personnel remains to be seen. I think they'll make sure other people do it. They'll hire a general manager to do it, to go with Vrabel. Pete Carroll, they're obviously going to go with a younger coach out there.
Yeah.
Despite the enthusiasm and everything he brings to the table. But look, personnel means everything. Okay? When Bill Belichick was his most successful, he had Tom Brady. Sure. When Pete Carroll was his most successful, he had Russell Wilson in his prime.
Yep.
Right? When he was at USC, he had Matt Leinart.
Had a great defense, too, obviously.
Right, but he had Matt Leinart.
Yep, Leinart and Bush, yep.
Okay? And Lendale Waite. All right.
Yep, Waite was a good point,
right.
Yep.
But he had Matt Leinart at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Sarkisian, by the way, was his offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Right? People forget that part. In fact, the last game he coached at USC was against Penn State in the Rose Bowl. He was taking the Washington job after that, University of Washington. And it's just, personnel makes a big difference for everybody. Alabama had great personnel.
Mm-hmm.
The personnel he had at Alabama was exponentially better than the personnel he had at Michigan State. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, it makes a big difference. You're sitting with all the NFL guys that have run through. They did a great job of recruiting, selling what Alabama could and could not do for them, and it was phenomenal. But today, with NIL, with the transfer portal, how do you go about it? He looks in his own division, for goodness sakes. In his own division, let's take Ole Miss. Ole Miss is built on transfers. Now, they're not going divisions next year. It's going to be 1 through 16.
Right.
But there's another element, too, that has to also be brought into play when you think about it. When you think about it, everybody's job in the SEC is about to get more difficult.
Yeah.
Because Oklahoma and Texas are coming in. Just like the jobs at Oklahoma and Texas got more difficult because now they're playing the SEC and not the Big 12. Everybody's job in the Big 10 got more difficult because USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington are coming in. Well, conversely, the jobs of Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Dan Lanning, and Kalen DeBoer all got more difficult because now they're playing in the Big 10. So it works both ways. Everybody's job in the Big 10 got more difficult because those 4 are in, and the job for the 4 out there got more difficult because now they're playing the Big 10.
Yeah, sure.
Game in and game out. So these jobs are getting more difficult with this consolidation about what's going on, these 2 super conferences. And do you want to deal with that anymore? No. I don't blame you.
And I think, and we made the point on this show that, and I especially made it about Dabo, and I made it about Saban a couple times. Right. Now, Saban got better as, obviously, last year before, but I felt like a lot of the legends were behind the 8 ball on NIL, and I still think that is the case to those that are still in the coaching, and it's tough because of you don't want to say it's a level playing field. Now it's not, I don't think, and because of the lack of stability, and I think when you don't have those rules, those coaches look around and saying, okay, what am I supposed to do, and the option becomes when you're 72 years old to step down and step away from the game. And, I think there's no question the game is going to miss these coaches.
Sure
Duke misses, there's no doubt. Duke misses Mike Krzyzewski in a big way. Now, John Shire's done a great job there.
Who is the voice of reason walking into the press conference?
Nobody.
That everybody wants to hear what they have to say.
Absolutely.
This has nothing to do, zero to do with Hubert Davis, zero to do with Kyle Neptune, zero to do with John Shire, zero to do with whomever's the next head coach, football coach at Alabama.
Yeah.
Right? But who's the one that walks in the room and says, all right, been there, done that. This is what I
completely
think.
Commands the room.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's nobody like that.
No.
Okay? I mean, it's just not the way it is.
Commands the room enough that as a media, you're looking at him with great respect, him or her with great respect, where you know their boundaries because you know what they've accomplished and you know that what they are telling you is probably right.
I mean, maybe Andy Reid, maybe.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
Maybe, but he doesn't usually do that. That's not really his style.
No, I think Tomlin commands a room, but also people will question Tomlin a lot more than they will question legends.
Because he's been there the entire time. But you know what? Tomlin doesn't budge. He does not.
No, he doesn't.
He does not acquiesce to he doesn't play to the crowd.
No.
He doesn't play to the media. I respect him for the fact he gets up and just says what he says, and he doesn't take bait.
No.
He just has never been that kind of guy.
No, Tomlin's one.
I mean, you're going to tell me Nick Sirianni commands the room? He can't even command his own locker room. I mean, come on.
No.
It's
absolutely not.
Same thing in college basketball. I mean, look, John Calipari's been there a long time, but the question is, how much do people listen to him? Rick Pitino's been in a bunch of places, but at this point, how much do people listen to Rick? Right? And it's not like I don't like him. I got along fine with both those guys.
Yeah, and that's and I've met them both. Absolutely, same. But I think, to me, a lot of times in basketball, and this was even before NIL came in. This is before deals started coming in, and I think Rick Pitino, and I think for sure John Calipari is guilty of this. A lot of times, people don't recruit the 5 guys that are best going to fit your team. They recruit the 5 best players. And I think that's what John Calipari did consistently, time and time again. And he paid for it in a lot of ways. And he didn't have a solution a lot of times when it was on the line in the tournament, where Mike Krzyzewski did. And another great coaches did, because a lot of times talent doesn't always win out. And I think that's what you've noticed a lot of times, more so at the college basketball level, because instead of getting those 5 guys or 8 to 10 guys that are going to be the fit in your team. You're just getting the top talent you can get, and a lot of times they don't play together. And you're seeing it. You mentioned Sirianni. You're seeing that in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah. Well, a lot of young coaches are out there. It's become in a lot of ways a young to middle-aged game to coach.
Yeah, it has. I think.
So Nick Sirianni's certainly one of them in that category. But
I think you could argue Kyle Shanahan, same thing. Better coach, but I think he's also in that category in the sense
Sean McVay.
Yeah, McVay. Yeah.
I mean, McVay's been with the Rams for a while. He's still in his 30s.
He's still in his 30s. Yeah.
LaFleur up at Green Bay.
Yep, I agree.
Kevin Stefanski.
Stefanski with Cleveland,
Right, look, Stefanski has done, if DeMeco Ryans is not in Houston, Stefanski's the coach of the year.
Yeah, in Cleveland. I agree.
You're talking about, okay, let's look at the circumstances. They're now 40% of the way through the contract with Deshaun Watson. And they still don't know if he's their long-term solution at quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's had 4 different starting quarterbacks this year, and he's lost Nick Chubb in the opening month of the season, the guy that's the focal point of everything they do from either running the ball or play action fakes.
And an injury that really, truly can not tear a team apart, but can emotionally crush a team. And it didn't, and they're winning. And absolutely winning without a doubt. I agree. I agree 100%. I think DeMeco Ryans is going to be the coach of the year. C.J. Stroud's going to be the rookie of the year, and without a doubt. But I think Kevin Stefanski's name would be in the conversation.
If it wasn't for DeMeco Ryans,
absolutely.
There's a reason you picked second overall. You're not good.
Yeah, no.
Right? No. And then he walks in as a rookie head coach, and guess what? We're pretty good. Okay, great. I give him credit. But Belichick. Look, having Brady meant everything, and he made the right choice. And he made the right choice there. Yeah. It paid off everything else he wanted to do. Belichick's a brilliant defensive mind. Don't ever take that away from him.
He showed that in New York in a big way.
You talk about Ty Law, and how he used him, Darrelle Revis. But let's go back to the Giants.
Yeah.
When they beat Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And the playbook, by the way, the defensive playbook is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Belichick rushed 2 guys. 2. Okay? That's it.
Yeah.
Okay? They played 2 down linemen. Everybody else, the other 9 guys, were linebackers and defensive backs. Why? Mm-hmm. Because they dared Buffalo to do what? Run the ball, which meant Kelly wasn't throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. And Belichick, that was the bet he made. We can win the game if we make you run. Mm-hmm. Because what would running do? Make the clock move and shorten the game. Sure. And then the Giants then made it pay off offensively because Otis Anderson had a big game, and they ran the ball. They had that 9-minute drive in the third quarter. Jeff Hostetler threw that pass to Ingram. It was a great play to get a first down. Right? But it was brilliant. Mm-hmm. You can't put a price on that that's the kind of mind he had. In Super Bowl 25, he dared a high-powered offense to run the ball by how he lined up. Mm-hmm. They took the bait, ran the ball, gained some yards, but guess what? Ate the clock and shortened the game. Yep. And the Giants needed to shorten the game.
I agree.
To beat Buffalo.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that kind of and he did the same thing with the Patriots, how he used Revis, how he used Law, the different alignments he had. This is the first time I saw anybody have all 4 linemen all standing up and not and not in a 3-point stance because it was an amoeba look trying to confuse the offense. Look, so everybody said, well, Brady is, well, look.
He used Troy Brown, a cornerback, in the playoffs.
Right.
That was the other part of it, too. And
but he did all that while having Brady a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And every time you hear, because of Brady, Belichick won. Well, guess what? In part, Brady won because Belichick's defenses were just so
Yes.
outstanding. I mean, who do you think's out there stopping Peyton Manning? It's not Tom Brady.
Not Tom Brady. No.
It's like
It's not Tom Brady.
Hey, guess
And
what?
you look at those Giants teams too. 86 obviously comes to mind. I think he got carried off the field for a reason. You know, that defense was incredible. And I even go 1990, those two games against 49ers. You know, you hold that offense to getting in the end zone twice in 2 games. You know, beat him 7. Obviously, they beat him 7-3 on that Monday night game in December, but completely could have won that game. And then obviously you win the game in the NFC Championship, and you hold that offense, that 49ers offense, which was absolutely a juggernaut, was the best. 1989 was one of the best teams I ever saw. A lot of that team came back 1990. Bill Belichick shut that team down, and that was before Montana got hurt.
That's right.
Yeah, that absolutely shut that team down in a big way.
Yeah, I know. All right. So, yeah, and then Pete Carroll, he is the roadmap for Jim Harbaugh if he so desires. He got out of Dodge right before the NCAA showed up, and he ended up going to Seattle.
That's where you were going with this. Yeah, I agree. 1,000% agree.
He went to Seattle, and guess what? He was great at Seattle.
He was.
And I remember covering Super Bowl Media Day.
He was.
He's great to talk to. And, same thing with the Rose Bowl. He's great to talk to.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's very respectful to Joe, too. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think Pete Carroll was
very respectful to Penn State, to Joe.
Absolutely.
I thought he was great at Super Bowl Media Day. Mm-hmm. They were going to play the Broncos. Turned out they wiped the Broncos out. Let's face it. I don't know if he'll ever fess up, but they should have run the ball.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt they should have run. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think Marshawn Lynch has said that a few times.
Yeah, so did Jordan Hill. Jordan Hill told me that too. He was on that team.
Yeah, I don't know how he did.
He looked at me and said, "Steve, we should have run the ball."
Yeah. He great coaches outthink themselves sometimes, and that's something that he did. I think the one thing that he was also able to do, especially his last 2 years, he covered up a lot of the Seahawks' weaknesses. I think that's what great coaches can do, and Pete Carroll did that as good as anybody.
He did, but you know what? They were helped by the contract of the quarterback.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Not get around.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I mean, they were able to re-sign that entire secondary for big money.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Keandre Lambert Smith's uncle, Cam Chancellor. Which he is. It was like, really? Mm-hmm. I've had people go, oh, really? I said, do you guys read the bios? It's like, okay. But it's, that was. I mean, that's how they were able to get free agents.
Yeah.
Right? Because they had a quarterback on a 3rd-round contract.
Absolutely.
It made a big difference.
Right. And then, obviously, even last 2 years, they get to the playoffs with a team that had no business getting to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think when that to me, I think was a great job by Pete Carroll as well. And I think that's, they draft well, but the last couple of years, I think they've struggled. I think that's the one thing with the Seahawks. They drafted Walker, obviously. It's a great pick. Yeah, Smith and Jigba, I think, will be good. But
see, that they're in an Atlanta Hawks position. They're good enough to be in the mix,
but not
making
good
the playoffs.
Yeah.
But not like bad where they're getting one of the top 10 picks.
Agreed. Yep.
Now, when they did get a top 10 pick, they drafted Weatherspoon out of Illinois.
Yep.
It's been phenomenal for them. Really
absolutely
good.
Incredible. Right. And I think the one thing that makes that you could tell it is a well-run organization when you give multiple first-round picks up for somebody and they fail. Yeah. And I think obviously the 49ers have done that with Lance. The Seahawks have done that with Jamal Adams. I think that's very clearly when you look at, Adams is a great player. He's not shown it in Seattle. He's not shown it in the last couple of years. He's not been healthy. Right. But I think, where they helped with the Russell Wilson trade, yes. But I think they overcame that trade in a big way. And I think when you as a franchise in the NFL are able to overcome a multiple first-round pick trade and get your team successful, I think that tells me how well of a managed team you are top to bottom.
Yeah, and it's absolutely right. Who are your playoff picks again?
Playoff picks this?
You're picking the Bears? You worry.
Tell you what, the Bears got hot. The Bears got to be a better team. They could have beat the Packers. Yeah. I think you would have felt real good about going into the offseason. But
you picking the Bears to win the Super Bowl now?
Bears,
that's a little bit off.
I thought the Bears, maybe the Panthers right behind them somewhere. How bad? How bad is it that ownership in Carolina is literally saying, my goodness, they could have gotten better trade on a video game than they could have gotten? That's not good. No. That is not good.
That's not good. That is
trouble.
So, first game, Houston-Cleveland. Who you got?
I'll tell you, I like Cleveland in that game. I think Cleveland too. Yep.
The game of mystery.
Yep.
That nobody will say.
The Peacock game.
Miami and Kansas City.
I feel like Kansas City is in that spot Tom Brady was in his last year in New England, where they're there for the taking. But I think the weather is the factor. I think with it being sub-zero,
it's going to be 3 degrees.
Yeah, I think with the weather, if this is a 40-degree game, I like the Dolphins. I think the weather is too much. The Dolphins
I think Kansas City.
Yeah, I think Kansas City wins that game.
Yeah. Buffalo, Pittsburgh.
Buffalo's the one team if they can just get the running game going, I think they're an instant Super Bowl contender for me. I like Buffalo in that game.
Yeah, I like Buffalo to win that game as well. Let's see. Egad. Well, I got to bring this one up. This will be good. Let's see who the other games. Let's see. The Sunday night game is.
There's 2 more on Sunday.
Two more on Sunday. So you got. Well, how about Philadelphia and the Bucks first? I'm picking Tampa Bay.
I'm going to go with Philly in this game. I think they can right the ship for 1 week. I don't think Tampa's offense is good enough, but I do not see this Eagles team making a run. I really don't.
No, neither do I.
Yeah.
The other 2 Sunday games are.
You got the Goff and Stafford Bowl, and I'm trying to think of what the other game is. It's got to be.
So we'll go Lions and Rams.
I actually like the Rams in that game. I think the Rams' passing offense is going. I think the Lions' pass defense.
Go with Detroit.
No, Detroit.
The
pass defense is concerning for the Lions.
Just to go in a different direction, I'll go Detroit.
I think the Rams are playing well right now. I think they're going to be. They have 2 great healthy receivers, which they really didn't have much of the year. I think the Rams are a scary, scary team. If that team in San Francisco draws the Rams as much as they've owned them, I think that's going to be a matchup you don't want to see if you're the 49ers.
Yeah. And the other game is Dallas.
And the Packers.
I'll pick Dallas because they're at home.
Exactly.
The game where Green Bay. I love watching Green Bay.
So do I.
They are fun, young, exciting
Jordan Love's
team.
not fazed by anything. There's something about that quarterback position in Green Bay where you're just not fazed of anything.
Did I ever tell you the Sean Clifford story?
No.
Okay, so they played Detroit on a Thursday night at Lambeau, and Detroit waxes them.
Yeah.
Now, Green Bay eventually went to Detroit and won, but when they played at Lambeau, Detroit won, and convincingly. That was on a Thursday night. Penn State's playing Northwestern on Saturday. So Sean drives down from Green Bay. Where the heck were we staying? We're staying out near Arlington, like Willamette, something like that. And he drives down to see Liam. Well, Jack and I are sitting in the lobby getting ready. We're going to go out to dinner. And Sean comes in like, oh, hey. So he comes right over. He's talking to us for a few minutes. I think Jack asked about, hey, so how's the Green Bay experience been? He goes, it's been incredible. He says, I said, yeah, last night was kind of rough. He says, last night was weird. He said, at the end of the game, the fans started chanting, we want Clifford. We want Clifford. He said, for a second, I started like smirking a little, like, hey, all right. He said, then I thought, all those times, we want Levis.
We want Aller. Yep.
And he said, and then I just kind of like, no, Jordan, you're fine.
Yeah. And they always say the backup quarterback's the most popular player on the team.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying it was a great story.
It is. Absolutely. But yeah, I do like Dallas with it being at home. Yeah. And I think it sets up, if that does hold true to form, a Dallas-Eagles playoff game, which would be exceptional, but I think Dallas wins that one when we get to that game. Because then the Rams win. Yeah, if that goes the way I pick it, it would be Rams-Niners. Yeah, Dallas-Philly. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Get this article here. This is about the new arena at Baylor. Baylor used to play at the Farrell Center. And I did 2 games in there. So I've actually did 2 games in there. But they built a new 7,500 capacity venue. It took about a year and a half to open. And it's, again, 7,500 seats. Farrell Center was about 10,000. All right. But this is 7,500. Crowd looks terrific on television. They say the student section is strategically placed behind the team benches, facing the camera, the whole deal. So they've called some good plays and had some good suggestions, that Scott Drew said. He says, if you're a student, where else would you rather be? He says, the noise level is number one, Drew said when asked about his favorite features to the place. He also emphasized the verticality of the seating, the uniqueness of not having a video board hanging over the center of the court. There are two huge ones at each end. Also takes a lot of pressure off the roof, too, when you do that. And the fact there are no bad seats in the venue is impossible. It's too small to find one. Technology in the arena has led to flashy game production and makes Baylor basketball seem bigger. So there's a lot of buzz around Foster Pavilion. I've talked about this many times. How many times have you heard me say that you need to downsize stadiums and arenas?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Agreed. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Flat screen TVs, things like that. Right? Well, then they decide to put together. Keep in mind, many schools don't have the funding nor the footprint or geography to tear down their current arena and build a new one. That's very true. And there are some arenas that still need to exist for many events outside a basketball game. But if there is a magic wand that could change things, here's an introductory list of schools with venues well north of 12,000 seats that would be so much better off playing in a barn than held somewhere closer to 9,000 as opposed to what they have. Here's the list. Georgetown, they play downtown D.C. where the Wizards play.
Yep.
20,600. Now, every game I've done in there, except for the Big Ten tournament, the curtains have been down all the way around and whatever. The Big Ten tournament, they had, all the seats were available. I've done games at NC State, 19,700. I've done a couple of games in that arena. That's where the Hurricanes play. Okay. Ohio State, I'm there a week from Saturday, 19,049. I've never done a game at Memphis, the Pyramid, 18,400. South Carolina, 18,000. Never done a game there. Alabama, I've done a game there at Coleman, 15,316. Guess who's next on the list?
Got to be getting close to the BJC here.
It's right there, 15,261 seats. Penn State, we already know.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, never did a game there, 15,098. Missouri, 15,061, never did a game there. Iowa, of course, I've done a lot of games there, 15,056. Wake Forest, never did a game there, 14,665. And, of course, I've done a lot of games at West Virginia at the Coliseum, 14,000. Said that's only the start of it. The coaches and fans know, too. Dozens of programs are playing in barns that are too big. It has an impact on the environment. It has an impact on home court advantage and so forth. A lot of people, there will be a game for Penn State in Rec Hall next month with Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois, yeah.
But that's not perfect.
No.
Right? I just did a game in the Palestra where all the seats are right up on the court. Well, the sidelines at the Rec Hall are phenomenal. Exactly what you want. The end zones stink. Sorry, okay? Don't sit there and romanticize something that just isn't a fact.
Right.
Okay? I've done tons of games there.
Right.
You also have a problem with bathrooms.
You got a big problem with bathrooms.
Big problem with bathrooms and other amenities in the building. I mean, the Palestra has one bathroom. Now, there's a second one that if you know the building, which we do, we know where it is. Okay.
That's why Yankee Stadium couldn't come soon enough when they built the new one. My goodness, was that bad when it came to bathrooms.
But let's face it, I mean, Baylor had the money to do this, and they did it. I mean, look, Cameron Indoor is not a big place.
No, it isn't, but it's a great place.
Yeah, I mean, Gamble Pavilion is not a big place. Now, places that can sustain it, Kansas can.
Sure.
I've never been to Fog Island. It's incredible. All right. I mean, Syracuse can, but can they now in the post-Jim Boeheim era? I don't think so.
I was going to say, with the post-Boeheim era, I'm not sure.
St. Joe's, small arena, like 3,200. Illinois, They can fill it, but still too big. I've done games in Florida. Believe it or not, that's not a big arena, but that's a struggle. I've done games at Clemson, struggle. Kentucky, even they're struggling selling all their tickets now.
Yeah.
But I've done a game in Rupp. Michigan's a struggle.
Yeah.
Let's see who else is on here. Villanova, I've done. It's becoming more of a struggle. I've done a game in Virginia. That's a struggle.
Yeah, and Villanova's gone away.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
I've done a couple games in the Pit. That's actually now a struggle. There's a lot. These are all bigger places.
Yeah. Yeah, Villanova, for many years, obviously had a lot of their big games at Wells Fargo, and they still have a couple there, but it's not at anywhere near the level they used to have.
I mean, even UConn will play a game or two at the Harvard Civic Center.
Yep.
I've done a couple games in the Harvard Civic Center. So, but hey, they should move to Rec Hall. All right. Well, it's not that simple.
No.
Hey, first of all,
no.
it's not. First of all, Rec Hall is not comfortable.
No.
Okay?
No.
There's a lot of things to it that aren't. Right, and wrestling fans will tell you that. Look, the team is winning, which makes the experience exponentially better, but that's a hard bench to sit on with relatively few bathrooms for a period of time. And sometimes you're far away from the mat, right? Because, again, the seats are not on top of whatever court it happens to be. And a volleyball court is smaller than a basketball court.
And obviously they've done a much better job now. It's exceptional, but parking is still an issue, really.
Parking's a big issue.
Yeah, and that's the other part of it. There's no doubt. And all of this comes together. I think most fans know that. I would say most fans. There is that 15 to 20% that might not, where you're not just looking for what your seat's going to look like watching the game. You are at naming all of these things that are factors: bathrooms, parking, how comfortable is the experience? How pleasant is the experience? What do you get out of there? When you get into there? All of that plays a role. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, it's a smaller school. Have you ever done a game in Soika Pavilion?
Yes. Yep. They did a doubleheader with State High there once.
It's tremendous.
Yep.
Right? The seats are all right on top of it. It's great. Oh, well. Okay. That was an interesting story. They downsized from 10,000 to 7,500. It's better. And that, to me, is the trend you're going to see nationally across the board. There was just a story the other day about Gen Z. You're a Gen Z guy, right?
No, I think I'm a millennial, right?
No, you're a Gen Z guy.
Gen Z?
Yeah, it's like...
No, I'm not even sure I'm millennial. I think I'm even before then.
Nobody is sure what you are.
Probably not. I'm not even sure. When I'm going through trying to figure out what I am, everybody's going to be in trouble.
Tomorrow we'll have Bill Hillgrove, and we're going to have Peter King tomorrow. All right?
Nice.
That's your little playoff prep for tomorrow. How about that?
I like that.